All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Caleb Dardick, and I'm a project administrator in the Nevada County CEO's office. And I'm pleased to have the opportunity tonight to help be your Zoom operator for the Coalition of Firewise Communities this evening. And we have a good and abbreviated agenda, but the topic is no less important tonight than it's ever been. I'll be turning it over to your chair, Bob Long, in a moment. Just want to go over a couple ground rules. I'm going to mute everybody. And if you do unmute, please, or come in late, keep it on mute unless you're a speaker. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom or new to it, if you pull your cursor down to the bottom, you'll see that there's a place where there's a mute button on the left. As you move to the right, there's a video, stop video. Keep moving, there's a chat icon. So if you have questions, you can put your questions in the chat, say who it's for, and I'll read it out to Bob or whoever is the speaker. If we're thinking that we're gonna have about an hour meeting, probably about 30, 40 minutes of presentation, should leave half hour to 40 minutes or 20 minutes for conversation. And so there's also a way that you can raise your hand. If you click on participants, and you'll see on the right-hand screen your name and other people's names, and there's a way to raise your hand. But probably the very easiest is just to go into chat, leave a comment, and if I do recognize you to speak, then unmute yourself, make your comments, and then please put yourself back on mute. So we're all learning Zoom courtesy. I do want to let you know that we are recording this meeting and that the Firewise Coalition will I guess, share it with folks who are unable to join tonight. And with that, let me turn it over to Bob Long. Bob.
Well, welcome to the April Coalition of Firewise Community Meeting. This is an unusual way for us to meet, but I think it's great that Caleb is able to offer this opportunity to us, and we thank the county for loaning us their Zoom account. I just thought I always let Jim Mathias tell jokes. I thought somebody suggested I might start with a joke, and so I have one that rivals Chief Mathias, I think. So the question is, why do scuba divers fall backwards out of the boat? Because if they fell forward, they'd still be in the boat.
That is definitely Mathias worthy.
I thank you, Caleb. I thought it would be. Anyway, so it would be a coalition meeting if I didn't start out to remind everybody that they need to sign up for Code Red, promote the Fire Safe Council. If you haven't joined, please do. Not, as you're probably aware, nonprofits are in need of funds as we go through this lockdown. All of us that are part of nonprofits, we've lost our means for the most part of raising money, and the cash flow doesn't stop going out, but it's hard with this lockdown for us to raise money. So if you haven't joined the Fire Safe Council yet, I urge you to do so. I've noticed neighbors walking in our neighborhood that I've never seen before. I'm relatively certain they are neighbors, that they're not strangers casing the place. So as you're out walking, notice how many people have the appropriate address sign out in front. This is the time to approach the Fire Safe Council also for getting address signs. So please remember that. As Caleb said, tonight's meeting is simple. We don't have a topic to discuss tonight. We don't have a speaker. We're going to ask our contributors to give their normal monthly reports. So I think we'll just get right into that. So Chief Mathias, if you're ready, you want to see if you can top that joke and tell us what's going on with CAL FIRE.
I don't know if I could ever top that joke. I don't know if I even want to, but yeah, probably one of the best things CAL FIRE ever did is they gave me a computer that doesn't have a camera. So you're welcome for that, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well during this times that we're living through right now. And you know, I was at home with my grandkids. Here it comes, buddy. I was home with my grandkids, and you know, everybody's doing the learning from home and online learning. So one of the things was you're supposed to use words in a sentence. My oldest grandson's supposed to use beans in a sentence. So he says, well, my grandma, she has a garden, so she grows beans. And I said, well, that's really good. And then my granddaughter's there, and she says, well, you know, I like burritos, so my mom cooks me beans. And I'm like, oh, that's good. And then my youngest grandson that can speak went ahead, and he's almost like a surgeon. He's going to cure cancer. He goes, well, that's great, all you kids, but we're all human beings. So in these troubled times, I hope that joke made you feel a little bit better. So there you go. Is that okay, Bob? Did I do all right?
We knew we could count on you.
Well, I had a backup one in case that one failed. It's hard to tell in video conferencing. Anyway, let's move on with the report. So, folks, I know there's a lot of stuff going on, and we just went through a whole bunch of rain and some snow like we've probably never seen before, but that just doesn't matter. Fire season is still coming. We're still in California. It's still going to do that, what it always does. We're still going to have hot, dry days. It's not going to rain for a very long time. So it's coming. We still have to prepare for it. And it may be more so this year than any other year. Like CAL FIRE always says, it's going to be the worst fire season in history. There for a little while, it wasn't funny because it really was the worst fire season in history. And we hope that it isn't, but we prepare like it's going to be. You kind of have to think of it like a scientist right now. January and February were very dry months, the driest in recorded history ever that on the planet for our area that we've had. No rain in, no recordable rainfall in February, and a very small amount in January. So that led to some pretty big fires. On February 17th, we had over a 100-acre fire in Sierra County up by Loyalton. That's unheard of. On March 4th, we had a fire that approached 50 acres near Bullard's Bar in Yuba County. So those things just don't happen in February and March. And I'm going to tell you that fire near Bullard's Bar, that wasn't just grass like it was up in Loyalton. It wasn't sagebrush and grass. It was manzanita, it was pine trees, it was oak trees, and it moonscaped the canyon. It was pretty impressive. We brought aircraft in, we're able to get ahead of it with the aircraft and the dozers. And so it's just, we haven't seen that kind of stuff. And looking at the way water gets from the ground, you know, up into the top of the trees, there isn't a pump at the bottom of a tree. Trees have to have long, sustained, wet winters in order to get rain up into them. And there's a certain extent that's true for brush as well. So we really have to be prepared. We have to get our homes ready. As of February 12th, we've had 53 wildfires in the Nevada Yuba Placer unit for 158 acres so far. So we're getting there. And last year, just to give you a snapshot of where we're at this year from last year we had 10 fires as compared to this year 53, and we had 2 acres this time last year as opposed to 158. So I'd say we're dealing with a significant danger that's out there. As a matter of fact, right now, we still have engines responding to and at scene of an uncontained vegetation fire up in Yuba County near the Foothill Fire Jurisdiction. It's 3 to 5 acres right now, and they still don't have full containment on it, right after the rains that we just had. So if you're out there burning piles, be super careful. What we want to do right now is we want to use this time to harden our homes as much as possible. CAL FIRE can help you out, as can Nevada County with our websites. The CAL FIRE website is readyforwildfire.org. It'll give you all kinds of information, so I will not go on and on about all the stuff that's in there. Readyforwildfire.org. Please reference that. Has lots of good stuff. My Nevada County, I'm sure, can reference a bunch of stuff for you too, and I'm sure we'll get into that later. So that'll introduce you to our Ready, Set, Go program. If you aren't an expert in that, just remember the ready part is what we're doing right now. Defensible space, 5 feet clearance around your home with nothing there. 30 feet out, we clear it pretty darn good with some pretty good spacing between brush, clear around our homes, and then we clear all the way out to 100 feet. And then we get set, the set part of Ready, Set, Go. We prep our family, we know escape routes, we create a go bag, we have a communication plan so we know how to get a hold of everybody. We have a plan to corral our animals and get them out to safety. All that kind of stuff. Know lots of escape routes. And then on the go is you're ready to go. You're listening for weather forecasts. You're looking for smoke in the air. You're hearing about public safety power shutoffs. You're watching the weather, all that kind of stuff. You should be ready to go. And then have a checklist, pull it out. Make sure that you're up on that checklist. You're ready to go with it. If you have to leave, you're told to leave, or you think it's important to leave, don't wait for the message. Get out. Cover yourself up. You know, you don't want to be shorts and a tank top when you're trying to get out with a whole bunch of embers and fire blowing. So cover up that skin. Take your pets with you. Get out. And then what I also want to remind you about, after we get to be masters of that Ready, Set, Go program, is I want you to remember that all of us are doing the right thing, trying to clear around our homes, and we want to do the right thing the right way, not the right thing the wrong way. So all of those things are when we lose control burns or when we're mowing. So if you're going to mow, make sure that what you're mowing isn't dry grass. Make sure it's green. If you're going to use a mower, only do it in green areas before 10 a.m., not on windy days, and just stay away from dry grass. If you have to do dry grass, then use a weed eater or something like that that doesn't create as much spark potential. You never really know where rocks are. I was mowing my lawn this weekend, and I found a rock in the middle of my lawn that I had no idea was there. So if they can be in the middle of my lawn, I'm pretty sure they can be out in a field. So be real careful with that. Follow all the burn rules. Make sure, right now it's open burning, which means as long as it's a burn day, you can have as big of a pile as you want, but that doesn't mean you don't have to use common sense. You still have to have good clearance. You're still responsible if it leaves your property, and you still have to clearly think about what you're doing. Make sure it's a burn day and there's no wind. Even if it is a burn day and it's windy and embers could escape where you're at and get into, I mean, think about blackberry bushes. There's green on the top and there's just dead and dry stuff underneath. An ember gets into that, it's very, very hard to control. So, I mean, the result is you're going to get rid of a lot of blackberries, but if it's close to a structure or something important or human beings, it's really going to do some damage. So be real careful with that. And have a plan to control any little escaped ember. Make sure that you have a garden hose that'll reach as far as your embers will when you're burning. And please, please, please clear around it. Don't think that you can just do it on top of green grass. If there's any vegetation of any kind around your burn pile and you're going to leave it, you run the risk of that just creeping away from you or sending some embers away. So be real careful. You know, talking about burn piles this year, a lot of with everything that's going on with preparation and defense against COVID, a lot of our air pollution control districts are considering limiting burning hours. So we're outside of fire season, and that has absolutely nothing to do with CAL FIRE. Of course, we want you to reduce fuels. Of course, we want you to do everything that's safe. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, and I don't understand how the COVID virus spreads, but there's a lot of consideration in the air pollution control districts by limiting burning, and the thought is that we make the air healthier. Even with the decreased carbon monoxide and pollution output from vehicles, that's still something that they're considering. So make sure you pay attention to all of your air pollution control district warnings and check their website before you go out and burn to make sure you're not doing something that they don't want you to do. So some other things to be prepared for, make sure you're putting out your campfires and warming fires. You know, a lot of people will have little warming fires in their backyard. social distancing, of course, but at some point that's going to be over with and we're going to be back to normalcy. So if you're out camping or you have a little backyard fire, just make sure that thing's all the way out when you decide that you're going to leave it. And then my last thing that I want to remind everybody of, we have a lot of problems with it this year when we get the cold temps and it starts to get into dry stuff, is just make sure that you're putting out your fireplace ashes in a safe place. If you're going to clear them out of your fireplace, even 2 or 3 days later, make sure you put them in a metal bucket of some kind and you put them away for at least a week, maybe even more, someplace in a covered metal container that isn't touching anything else flammable. We have a lot of people that will clean them out with paper shopping bags or plastic shopping bags or plastic 5-gallon buckets, and then they put them out on their deck. Just really something that's not very smart. So anyway, that's I took enough of your time and I'll be ready for questions later. So thanks all for me.
Hey, Chief, it's Caleb. And actually, we do have one question for you now from Jeff Peach. Jeff, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, I was just concerned, you know, you hear about, like in New York City, all the first responders, not all, but many of the first responders getting sick with COVID-19. And is CAL FIRE like worried about this? They say these fire guys, you know, they're out on the fire front and, you know, the hygiene isn't the greatest and they're all eating together. And I mean, it would be a bummer to have a lot of firemen get sick. You know, is CAL FIRE doing something about this?
Of course we're worried about it. All first responders, all healthcare workers are worried about it. I don't know where you heard that our hygiene isn't the best. I like take a shower almost every day. I mean, sometimes twice a month even. So our hygiene's pretty good. No, in all seriousness, of course we're worried about it. Of course we have plans to take care of it. We have spent a significant amount of time getting educated by Nevada County HHS, and you know, we cover 5 counties in Nevada Yuba Placer unit, and we're getting input from all those counties as well as from the state and all the different OESs that are out there. We're absorbing all that information. We're putting all the defense mechanisms into play. We have enough PPE right now. So far, we're doing the flattening the curve parts. We have plans to decontaminate our equipment and our fire stations, and so far the impact to our first responders has been very minimal, and that's some of the good work of the county and our HHS that is doing absolutely everything that they can to protect the healthcare workers and the first responders, and that in turn protects the civilians. So we're very lucky to have the good group that we have working for us, but yes, we're worried about it.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, Chief, thank you. We have a question from Susan Rogers, and do you want to unmute yourself?
Go. Jim, could you just give us the numbers again for January and February? How many fires and how many acres, please? Do you have that handy?
Yeah, well, for January and February, I didn't break it up by month, but okay. I will tell you from January until April 12th, we've had 53 fires in the Nevada Yuba Placer unit, which covers Nevada, Yuba, Placer, Sierra, and Sutter counties. That's been 158 acres and 53 fires so far since January 1st.
And last year it was only 10 fires and?
2 acres.
2 acres.
Yep.
10 fires and 2 acres. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, Chief, we got one more question from Don Thane. What's happening with the WUI drill?
The WUI drill, we're still on schedule for it right now. We might have to scale it down. We just have to follow the directions of what the professionals are. You know, they don't tell me how to put out fires, and I'm not going to tell them how to put out COVID. So we're going to go with whatever advice they give us. We're still an essential service. We still have to prepare for summertime and fire season. So we may need to scale back the public participation, but we're still hoping to do some of the drills for our first responders. So if everything works out perfectly, there's potential that that we could go ahead with the drill as planned. And And we're all hoping for that, but it just doesn't seem possible right now. But as of right now, today, everything is pretty much still scheduled with a little bit of a late preparation.
Okay, Bob, we got a question from Terry. Do you want to do that now, or?
I was going to ask Chief McMahon to go ahead and if he had anything to add.
That's great.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I know we had a code red message here a few weeks ago. That was, I think, a good test and a good reminder that we need to sign up for code red. As far as our firefighters at our stations, we're all kind of on lockdown unless there's, of course, an incident. We're not issuing permits from the office other than by appointment only. Other than that, our plan reviews and we will set up inspections if needed, but we're trying to hunker down too. Our firefighters, they have to take their temperatures and record them twice a day. And when it comes to shift change, they don't meet in the station like they used to. They all used to sit around and have a cup of coffee and do a shift passover. So we're trying to take all the measures we can and following, all the ideas and the regulations that OES has come up with. We're working real close with all the neighboring fire agencies, including Truckee Fire. So I think we're all on the same page with CAL FIRE and all just trying to do the right thing.
Thanks, Terry. Okay, so next up is Paul Cummins. What's going on at OES? You guys are taking a break, I presume.
Yeah, we've been just hanging out. No, no, thanks, Bob. And thank you, Caleb, for setting this up. Great opportunity to speak with all of you this evening. So OES has been busy, but really this is a public health emergency. So OES is in a support role for public health, trying to help them out with messaging and unmet needs. So the Emergency Operations Center that you're all familiar with supporting wildfires, we would be normally supporting an incident command. Our ESC is right now supporting the Public Health's Department Operations Center, which is a lot like a incident command, but for public health for COVID. So our ESC is working virtually though. So we are at a full activation with around 10 or 12 folks, but they're all teleworking. In fact, the only person sitting in the actual physical EOC is Lieutenant Bob Jacobs. He's working from there every day. I'm working from home, as you can see, home with my kids who are out of school. But like Caleb said, I'm logging quite a few hours on Zoom and Teams, probably 5 or 6 hours a day of meetings. So the county's still remaining very functional with all of the, we've compensated with electronic media here. So I thought I'd give you an update. I briefed the Board of Supervisors today on OES and some of the wildfire initiatives that we have going, and I thought I would give a quick overview to this group if you didn't catch that briefing of some of the things that we covered, if that works. So the first thing I want to talk about was in the vein of making evacuations safer. How many of you heard of Public Works getting the CAL FIRE grant for over $800,000? I see some hands. That's great. So CAL FIRE, OES and Public Works applied for 7 CAL FIRE grants, and Trish Tillotson in Public Works was awarded this one for around $860,000 to do roadside vegetation clearing along county roads. So on average, they're doing around 50 to 60 miles of county roads a year. With this grant, they think in 2021 and 2022, they're going to do like 140, 150 miles a year, which will be a significant increase in roadside vegetation clearing. And that'll translate to safer evacuation for our communities, which is great. So thank you, CAL FIRE, for supporting our county through that grant. That's really great news.
Wow, that is huge news.
That's right.
I hadn't heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great news.
Thank you, CAL FIRE.
So moving on to, Terry mentioned the code red message. So we were hearing, March 14th or 15th, I forget which day it was, Governor Newsom issued the, not a shelter in place, they weren't calling it, they were calling it a stay-at-home order. And that generated a lot of questions for our public health team and for OES. We were getting a lot of phone calls about, can I go golfing? And can I do this? And can I do that? I don't want to open all those cans of worms tonight on this meeting, but there were a lot of questions. So the county developed a website to try to answer those questions, mynevadacounty.com/coronavirus. And then also 211 can help answer a lot of those questions. But we kept hearing that there were individuals in our community who didn't know about this and who were just kind of going about their normal lives. So working through the county leadership, we determined the best way to try to get that message across to everybody was to send out a code red. And as you know, a code red, the code red system is a opt-in system, so you had to have signed up for code red. So we knew if we sent a code red message, that would get through to all the people who had voluntarily signed up for this system. But what about all the other individuals who hadn't in our community? So we used another tool that you probably haven't seen before that you weren't used to, and that was our iPause messaging. And so that was our EAS, which sends a message over the TV. I don't know if any of you were watching local channels and you saw scrolling text go along the bottom of your screen. And then there was a message that went out over the radio. So if you were listening to our local radio stations, you would have heard a message in English and in Spanish recorded by county employees informing the public of the stay-at-home order from the governor, of our website, and 211 information. And then we also sent out a wireless emergency alert that was a pop-up on everybody's phone. So at 10 o'clock sharp, I think every cell phone in the county got a pop-up that said, governor has issued a stay-at-home order, here's some website information, and here's the 211 information. Then we went into those rolling code reds. We separated those out by 30 minutes because if we did one big massive code red launch and just let it go, it would probably crush our telephone infrastructure. It's just not meant for that. So we did this rolling thing of every 30 minutes by district. And so that's why your friend on the other side of town might have gotten their call before you did, or vice versa. And some of you may have gotten called twice or 3 times, and we apologize for that because the district maps that we used had a little bit of overlap in places, and you might have been in that overlap. So we ended up sending out over 134,000 phone calls were made by code red. 40,000 text messages were sent, and 18,000 emails. Before we went and did this message launch on the 24th of March, I was on the radio the day before talking about this. We were messaging through all of our normal social media and Ubinet and everything else to let the public know this was coming. So this generated a lot of talk and interest around code red. So like Bob said at the beginning of the meeting, it's important to sign up. You can sign up through 211, or you can go to our website and you can sign up on there for a managed account. And that way you have control over your account. And we saw a 500% increase in code red signups in March, which I think it's a good thing, a positive outcome of this code red message. So moving along, there's going to be a letter. I think we talked about this before at previous meetings, a letter going out to the community, just reminding everyone that we all live in a high and a very high fire severity zone, and that this is a good time to be doing that defensible space clearing and reminding the public of our county ordinance. So that letter is set to go out in early May, late April. It got delayed a little bit with COVID because we wanted to weave some COVID messaging into that. Our defensible space team will be back out right now. They're supporting the COVID response. Our inspectors are the guys that are out delivering medical PPE to the hospitals and filling in some of those gaps in our community. But they will be back out here soon enough. And they've got a new county-wide checklist they've created they'll be using as they go out and educate the public around that. Green waste will be back on. So OES is partnering with the Fire Safe Council, and I don't want to steal too much of Jamie's thunder here. I'll let her talk about the upcoming green waste program, but We do have some green waste dates and options that Jen Tamo and Jamie are working on that they should be sharing soon. They do have COVID considerations and social distancing baked into that as well. Early May, we should be sending out another mailer. I'm sure many of you remember the mailer that we are always handing out. It's kind of a one-stop shop, encompasses a lot of the things our community needs to do to prepare for wildfire season. Everything from go bags to code red to green waste to places you can go to get information. We have a 2020 version of that that will be truly county-wide. Last year there was an incorporated and unincorporated version. Now we're going to have a county-wide version of that that's going out. So that's big news. And lastly, we briefed the board on we still have ongoing dialogue with PG&E around public safety power shutoffs. So even though we're focusing on COVID and wildfire prep, we're still engaging with PG&E in regular dialogue around PSPS and working on those things that affected all of our lives back in the fall. And we're not letting them off the hook. We're having ongoing dialogue and making sure that there's certain things like keeping Grass Valley energized, keeping Nevada City energized, having better community resource centers, having better communications between PG&E and us and PG&E and the community. Those are things that we're continuing to work through with them and hope to have resolved before we get into the next PSPS season. That's all I have, and I am ready to take your questions.
Thanks, Paul. Are there any questions, Caleb?
Yes, Susan has a question. You want to unmute yourself?
It was just about that nice figure on the 500% increase on Code Red signups over March. Is that 500% over the average monthly signup?
Yeah, so what we did is we did a look back. Our vendor OnSolve does a monthly statistics that they pull for us. And we've been averaging around 100 to 120 signups a month going through October, November, December, January, February. And in March, we literally had like 550 people sign up for Code Red. So I have to think it was associated with the messaging around the 24th.
Paul, this is Caleb. Could you talk a little bit about how today's presentation to the board is the first in an ongoing series? And that would be great.
Yeah, it's great, Caleb. Thanks. So we normally do a once a month update to the Board of Supervisors around wildfire initiatives. We're trying to maybe even up that to twice a month, at a very minimum, do once a month. And it's not going to be just us getting up and talking about our goals. We're trying to start to bring subject matter experts to these meetings. So one of our subject matter experts we want to see maybe at the next one in May or late May is Chief Matthias on the call here. We'd like to show that Ponderosa video. If you folks haven't seen that, it's a really well done, about 8-minute documentary around the Ponderosa West Grass Valley Defense Zone. And I think Jamie Jones can talk about that as well. She was featured in the video as well as Chief Matthias. We'd like to show the board that video and then have somebody like Chief Matthias get up and talk about it. But just use these board meetings as opportunities to educate the public and really zero in on wildfire specific initiatives.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can get the Firewise Coalition advance sort of series of these talks as they're coming, so you could get them on your calendar. I think it's going to be a really important teaching tool that the Firewise community can take to their members and encourage people who are able to tune into board meetings or watch them later to, get this deeper dive and ongoing into all the different issues around defensible space and forest health and evacuation route planning that we all are becoming more and more conversant in all the time, but to be able to really use the Board of Supervisors as a forum for community education, as Paul said, and promote these opportunities and share the information, because we have a big heavy lift as we all know. All right, let's see, Paul, you got a question from Virginia. Virginia, do you want to unmute and talk to Paul?
Okay. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Virginia.
So during the public safety power shutoffs, OES is, is being an advocate for the county to the state, and I think Nevada County was getting had more instances of power safety shutoffs because of our topography, wind-driven events, that type thing. Has there been any progress in either lessening the public safety power shutoffs, or the length, or lessening the length of the power safety shutoffs? Has there been any
Yeah.
on that?
That's a good question, Virginia. And, there's some science here, but I think there's also some guesswork that PG&E was going through last year. Of they were really trying to take weather modeling and weather forecasting to determine what parts of the grid they were going to turn off and turn on. I think what they've said is that they're going to try to really narrow that science down more to reduce the footprints of the areas they were shutting down. And just like you said, you hit the nail on the head. That very large portions of Western Nevada County were affected. I mean, our community was in some ways affected at a higher percentage than many others. And so that's water that we carried to PG&E on your behalf and said, hey, this had a significant economic impact. This had, people lost jobs, businesses closed, kids were out of school. This was a big deal. So we really need you, PG&E, to work hard to make sure you're doing everything you can to keep that window very short when you turn that power off. And when you're going to do that, we want you to be very clear about when you're going to do that so that we can better plan around it. So we're really trying to hold PG&E accountable as much as we can, and to continue that dialogue with them. So I don't really have that clear answer, but what I can say is that we're working hard to really narrow that down for next year.
All right, we have a question from, we got 3 questions. They're coming in fast. The first one is from Sylvia. Can a neighborhood that has 8 miles of private roads be included in the grant fund road clearance?
So that grant was specifically written for the county roads. So it would not apply to private roads. So I think there might be some other opportunities. I would have to defer to Jamie on how maybe we're going to address the private roads. If there's any grant opportunities aside from working within your neighborhood and your community to try to reduce that hazardous vegetation load along your roads.
Okay, got a question from Arnold. What actions will lead to PG&E not shutting off power as often in the future? More tree removal?
Yeah, so they're doing tree removal. From what I understand, if they haven't started it yet, they will. And I think anything they can do to harden their infrastructure against like you said, trees and things, I think will probably go into their calculus. I don't know their calculus, but I have to assume based on the work they're doing that it would reduce that risk.
Okay, and Susan has a question for you.
Well, actually, it's probably for Caleb and for Paul. I got an email from Polly Halstead today, and I haven't even had a chance to pass it along to Bob and our other 2 officers. It's about the homeless situation and fire danger. They've had some fires apparently from illegal camping on Sugarloaf, and she's sending us a plan that the shelter committee wrote. I'm reading off the email here, excuse me. And she's wondering if the Firewise Council, if the Firewise Coalition will support their plan and help them make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors and the county CEO to implement a safe sanctuary and get all the illegal camps cleared out once and for all. So I know that's a lot for you to just answer on the top of the spot, but is there, top of your head, is there discussion about what the county might be going to do about the illegal camping and the risk of fire and all that sort of thing?
And Caleb, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this specific instance was a question the OES got today during the board meeting. And I think that Chair Hall for District 1 did address this question. And I think what she said is that it's certainly on their radar and that they're working on it. And I don't remember the solution, to be honest, so I apologize.
I don't have anything to add, Susan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, back to you, Bob. Oh, wait a minute. We got Jeff has a question for Paul. on the county road clearing.
Sure.
Yeah, and you may have talked about this before, but how does the county determine which roads are going to get the roadside, clearing? And I guess the question behind the question is, I have this thought in my mind that, what if the Firewise communities got together and said, okay, here are the critical roads that are evacuation routes, the critical county roads that are evacuation routes in our Firewise community. And I'm sure the county must be paying attention to some of this, but it would seem that they should get the most attention. The critical evacuation routes, I guess, is my question. Do you know how they choose these roads or what?
Yeah, I would have to check with Trish Tillotson. I know she's briefed this group before, and I think she's briefed the Fire Safe Council before on her process for working through the county roads. She has essentially a priority list. She does have priorities that she assigns or her team assigns to each of these roads. I don't want to speak out of turn. I'd have to get with her to figure out what's informing those, if it's based on risk or what it's based on. But I do know that they have a priority list and that they're working through it. I know that these are conversations we've had in our office too with some of the fire chiefs and around using the CAL FIRE risk mapping and looking at what areas are risks, and then also trying to start to understand what specific communities have for evacuation risks, right? So I'll use like Lake Wildwood, for example. That is if you look at the CAL FIRE risk map, it's a moderate fire risk down there. It's not high or very high like other parts of our community are, like Cascade Shores might be. But Lake Wildwood has like 2 or 3 ways in or out. So it has its own evacuation challenges separate from its fire risk. So there's different metrics we certainly have to consider here.
I think we should probably invite Tricia to our next meeting.
Sure, yeah.
Not a bad idea.
All right. Sylvia asks, is there different defensible space interpretations? Our insurance company requires 100-foot clearance, dead debris, including needles. Other parts of Glenshire Truckee seem immune to the strict guidelines.
I think I would actually defer to either Chief Matthias for the State Public Resource Code 4291 side, or Chief McMahon for 24, explaining the county ordinance. That might better answer this question. If one of you gentlemen want to take this one.
Yeah, I can hit it. Jim here. It doesn't matter where you live. If you're in state responsibility area in the state of California, 4291 still applies. So it is never less stringent than that. It can only be more stringent than that. So, there may be some local county ordinance that adds 200 feet of clearance. There's never less stringent than 100 feet.
And I can add too that what I'm finding is insurance companies are kind of making up their rules here and there. They'll ask for a clearance letter or a 4291 inspection, and the inspectors go out and give that to them, and sometimes that's not good enough for them. So as long as you're complying with 4291 and the county ordinance, then you're in pretty good shape, at least with us. So I know that, and I'm not sure if the insurance commissioner's addressing this at all or not, but it is a problem because we get those calls all the time.
All right, I got a hand raised from Jonathan Pierce. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, hi, thanks very much. I'm living in Jordan Street. It's on the south side Deer Creek community, Fire Safe Council, and we have a very large property in the Grass Valley group that was cleared about 15 years ago or 17 years ago, and then Caleb's already gone out and you've walked it with some of our members. And it poses a real fire risk both to our neighborhood as well as to the downtown if there's a propagation from a west wind coming up the Deer Creek Canyon. So my question is, it's a private property and I've been kind of mulling over, is there any way with a new owner, which has just bought it, I think in the last year, is with land use permits, or in what way can we approach kind of not leaving it only on the owner, but if we can help them in some way, but still requiring that we get this cleared so that we don't have a crown fire propagating directly into the Southside Deer Creek neighborhoods on Ward Street and along the Jordan Street. So my question for any of you, I don't know who to direct it to, would this be best through fire ordinances? It's a large property. It's very, very bad shape. It's dense, and there's a lot of people camping in it too as well, not only up in Sugarloaf, there's another area inside of Providence Mine, which is a real bomb. So the question, is kind of how can we approach this from a land use or other kinds of permits to get this cleared, or bring those forces to bear to get it cleared? Any of you can enlighten me, or
I think a lot of that property is within the city limits of Nevada City, and I'll pass that on to Chief Goodspeed. And I do remember the clearing. I think Erickson was the property owner at the time 15 years ago or so. And yeah, they did a lot of clearing, and this new owner will need to step up to the plate, hopefully. So I will pass that on to Chief Goodspeed at Nevada City.
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah, Pat Kelly said it was so cleared back in 2006, you could see 200 or 300 yards into it. It was just like a really park-like. It was good to go, you know. And they logged it at the same time. That helped pay for the clearing, but now that's not available. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And I was invited to go on a site visit with a neighborhood, and I think it was pretty much the first night we were told we were not supposed to be we're start to social distancing. Right. So
yeah.
So I look forward to when we're free again to go outdoors and meet the neighbors. I'll be there.
Right.
Okay. We're going to have to move along here. We're going to run out of time. So Jamie from the Fire Safe Council, what say you?
You got to unmute, Jamie.
I did. I'm having difficulties still. You'd think after 30 meetings in a week that I'd get it, but you know. Thank you guys for having me. I'm going to try to give you a brief update on what we're doing at Fire Safe Council. I know we sent out a letter a few weeks ago letting everybody know that some of our services to the community were going to be on hold. And that remains true at this time of our DSAV program. We want to keep our volunteers safe. And so we'll be reassessing that in the coming weeks, and hopefully, you know, by May or June, we'll be able to start that program back up. Our chipping program is back online. We have 2 trucks in the field right now working on the chipping program. We're really encouraging our residents to continue doing their defensible space clearing projects and taking advantage of this time while they're ordered to stay at home to work on those projects as much as they can. And I know that with that, I think that waste management has seen an influx of people trying to utilize their services for green waste, or either the dump facility to dispose of that. We're kind of asking, and Paul probably can speak more to this, but I think that the county at this point is asking for people to hold on to some of that unless it's an absolute essential disposal of, you know, not hazard waste, but, you know, garbage. It would be an unhealthy or unsanitary, you know, to pile all of that. But for your green waste, we are working on solutions for that. As you mentioned, we are going to have our green waste event again this year. And in partnership again with OES, we have outlined 3 weekends starting May 17th. So it'll be Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday for 3 consecutive weekends. We tried to kind of listen to everybody's feedback last year and still keep a weekend day, but to have some weekday opportunities for those who don't necessarily always want to try to, you know, battle the weekend crowds. And it also offsets the days that the waste management facility is not open for green waste. So we will do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then We will turn around and have the material ground on site, and then we will be inspecting those loads for invasive species. So we're asking that people don't bring, blackberries, Scotch broom, poison oak, those types of things, because we want to have a more pure product when we grind the material down. And then we will be distributing on Friday and Saturday back out to the community for, soil retention, moisture retention, things of those nature. And then we really want to message to the community that, this is something that we're offering, but we want to make sure that it's not being placed within the 30-foot zone of your home. There's a lot of benefit to using these chips, and I think it's a pretty popular thing amongst our community to use chips, but we want to message that, there's a placement for those chips. So that will all be a free service. We're looking into, kind of expanding that program and making it more robust this year. We have a partner that we are working with to expand that services, hopefully to 6 weeks. We will have more on that coming in the next week or so. And hopefully we'll have an announcement forthcoming with that green waste. So as I mentioned, the chipping is on. You can still stack your piles on the side of your driveway and submit chipping orders. I know the big question right now has been, how long is the wait? We were about a month or two out. We have 2 trucks running in the field, and our 3rd truck with the chipper bed box just arrived from Idaho on Sunday. So we will have that vehicle available to communities like Lake Wildwood and Lake of the Pines, where they cannot use broadcast or piled chips back on the ground. So that'll be an option now for people in those communities who may have not have otherwise been able to use our services. So we will have 3 trucks in the field, and we anticipate by the end of April that we will have no more than a 2-week wait with those vehicles all getting us caught up. So let me make sure I got everything on green waste. I can answer questions on that too. Oh, the big thing about the green waste is this year, I know there was a lot of difficulty last year. We were trying to load it into these waste management containers, and that's not always, a viable option for some of us. Especially the people like me who are really short and, can't make it over the side of a container if you tried. But what we're doing this year is we're just going to have it dropped off, off the back of the truck and piled on the ground. And as I mentioned, we're grinding that. So we will have some people there to help unload vehicles if you are unable to do so yourself. And so we will have staff there to help unload, but we are going to rely heavily on our volunteers again. So if you're interested in volunteering, we are going to run a contactless program this year. We are still applying all of the social distancing recommendations of COVID-19. We will be doing assessments basically from a SurveyMonkey on an iPad. No one will have to talk to the people within the vehicle. They'll stay, more than 6 feet away. And so we'll need volunteers to help run that data collection, and also to do directing traffic. So I think, we've identified almost 200 volunteer opportunities if we have the full 6 weeks. So 3 sites throughout the community. I can give you those sites. We're looking at the Old Bohemian Mill off of Brunswick, which is owned by Rise Gold at this time. The Senior Firewood Program operates there currently. So we have that site secured. We are going to take over the Alta Sierra NID site at Francis and Reagan this year, and we'll have that for 3 weekends. And additionally, we're going to have a location in Penn Valley off of Spenceville Road, right near the Penn Valley Fire Department. So that location has also been reserved for 3 weekends, and hopefully 6 if, for all of them, if we're able to navigate this extra partnership that we're working on right now. And so I think that covers everything for green waste. I know there's been a couple of questions about, events coming up. Dawn asked the question about the WUI drill, which sounds like we're still on for that for the time being, unless we have to, navigate COVID-19 and downsize that for the public. I know the Community Wildfire Preparedness Day, or the Children's Health and Wildfire Safety Carnival has been postponed. A lot of the Firewise communities use that event as their one activity for the year, their educational activity. So we will be arranging an alternate time for that and helping the Firewise communities with an event to make sure that you get your yearly activity in for your requirements. And then with that, with Firewise communities, I want to congratulate 6B Ranch, because 6B Ranch just got approved today. They got their approval sent over a few hours ago. I saw Lauren on here, so I'm hoping that you guys saw the same email, and I wanted to congratulate you guys. That puts us at 41 in Nevada County, and then we have 8 pending right now. And we still have a list of about 6 that are slated and funded right now to be finished. And then we'll be moving on to the ladder of the list there. I know there's still quite a few of you in the queue. So we've covered green waste. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got all these little sticky notes. I wanted to make sure I covered each point. If you're interested in volunteering, reach out. You'll be able to see our volunteer opportunity on 211 Connecting Point. And so if you are interested in volunteering, you can go on the volunteer hub at 211 Connecting Point, and you can sign up on their site for those opportunities. And we'll be sending out communications for those. And the next one is fire season guide. Back to my event list. Our fire season guide is going to be postponed, and with that, our timing is always goes hand in hand with the Community Wildfire Preparedness Day. We try to get that information out the same time as that event, but since there's so many things in flux this year, we decided to postpone so that all of our agency partners that are contributing had the most current information and valid information in light of COVID-19. So we expect to have that in distribution as of June 1st. Some of you have asked about the Red Zone Affair. We currently have not canceled or postponed, as that event is scheduled in August. And so we'll have a meeting at the beginning of May just to verify that and lay out a plan moving forward. But as of now, there is no change to that event. And I think that, oh, no, I have one very big announcement. So many of you have may know Julie Siegenthaler. She's our board secretary for Fire Safe Council. She has resigned as board secretary and has started a position as program manager for Fire Safe Council. So you will see communications coming from her forthcoming. We're really excited to have her on the staff. She's been incredibly helpful to us, and she's very knowledgeable already. And so she's actually running our green waste event. So you can reach her at programs@rufiresafe.com if you're interested in shooting Julie some questions about green waste or any of our other programs. She has yet to take over DSAVs at this time, since it's not really happening, but she's been focused on green waste and the fire season guide and a few of our other little items as we're trying to navigate COVID-19 and remote working and all of those wonderful things. So I think that covers all of it. That was a lot in a really short time, sorry.
You're good, Jamie.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you for all the work that the Fire Safe Council is doing. Caleb, did you have a comment to make?
There's just a few questions.
Okay.
Diane suggested, Jamie, there in the comment that you talk about the waste management green waste on the 20th and 27th.
I can't speak to the green waste event on the 20th and 27th for waste management. Paul, are you? No. Jen would probably know. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I don't know. I know that they were going to have some amnesty days for green waste. I don't know if those are still in place right now with the messaging that went out last week in the PSA about trying to deter some of the traffic, but I would definitely check in with waste management directly, or I think facilities at the county has been running.
So Jen Tamo is actually messaging me now, because I was just messaging her. So to Diana's comment, please mention waste management's accepting green waste the 20th and 27th, and she says that they're currently not. That's not happening. She says you can let folks know Amnesty Days will be rescheduled for a later date this year.
Yeah, I was in touch with one of the waste management people, and she told me a few weeks ago that those April events had been canceled.
All right, Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, Jamie, I get a lot of questions from Friends of Banner Mountain people about, do you know a contractor that knows about hardening homes? And I usually send them to Are You Fire Safe? And you guys have a lot of links to, tree guys and arborists and loggers and all that, but not as many for just a general contractor that is aware of all of these, nuances about decks and screening and all that. Do you know, I mean, you guys get many calls from contractors about that, or?
It's one of our more, you're correct. It's one of our more minimally populated categories on the site. I always tell people, please be vigilant. Sometimes we'll get some very specific home hardening vendors on that site. But check with the contractors board. Oftentimes they have pretty good information about who specializes in those things. And if they're listed with the contractors board, more often than not, they have a, good recommending power, and they're qualified and they've been vetted. And even anybody on our site, we update everybody annually to make sure that, their insurances and their licensing is the appropriate, but I always tell people to check with the contractors board to make sure that they're hiring the appropriate people for the job.
Yeah, I'd like to think that the contractors, a general contractor would, want to be well versed in all of this home hardening stuff, because it's so, it's such an issue around here. But
We're
anyways,
going to lose our connection here in a few minutes. So,
Right.
6:30.
You got to get back to that. We have cocktail hour in front of your house still, right?
Oh no, I thought we were going to lose. We're going to lose the link at the meeting ends at 6:30.
Oh, I think I gave it a little more time than that, but maybe, I don't think it ends like that. But in any case, Pascal from Ubinet shares that waste management events are shut down until July 1st at the earliest. So you can probably go to their website, get all of that information. And Susan has a quick announcement about home hardening.
I surveyed the 3 major hardware stores today: Hills Flat, B&C at Brunswick, and Penn Valley. And all 3 of those stores have the 1/8 inch hardware cloth that you're supposed to use for your home vents in both the 3-foot and the 4-foot wide rolls at all 3 locations. So they have, all 3 of them have both sizes in inventory right now. I just called today.
All right.
That's the kind of screening you also want to put if your deck is open at the bottom and you have to screen in the bottom of a low deck.
Okay, I don't see any more questions, Bob.
Okay.
We had, there was one there from Sylvia regarding water storage.
Oh, yeah. Do you know the answer to that? I apologize. I missed that. Yeah. Our
I would-
Truckee neighborhood, hang
Yeah.
on.
Says our
Lots are
Truckee-
all 20 acres. Every home's water source is an individual well. How much water are we required to store?
I would check with Truckee Fire on the west side. If you're required to have it, not all parcels are required to have it, even if there is no fire hydrant system. But we have set 2,500 gallons as the minimum standard. And there are some standards on how you put those water storage systems in. So call your local fire department and they'll be able to tell you what is needed.
Thank you, Chief, for catching that. I appreciate it.
Hey, Terry, this is Don.
Uh-huh.
Hey, could you just, throw out a number like an engine will pull up to a house and they could pump X number of gallons in so many minutes?
Our largest engines, our structure engines, which you'll hear them referred to as a type 1 engine, will pump sometimes up to 1,000 to 1,500 gallons a minute. They have that capacity. But also room and contents fires, a smaller bedroom or something, we've put put them out with as little as 50 gallons of water. So it just kind of depends on what's burning and the fuel load within there. So anywhere from, 100 gallons a minute to 1,500 gallons a minute they'll pump.
Lot
All
of
right,
money.
thank you, Chief.
So what
Bob,
Terry's trying to say is that's not a real quick and easy answer. There's a lot of things to it. When the home was built, whether it's in a neighborhood, how far it is from a fire station, all pretty well covered in Nevada County Code, Title III, Article 4 for emergency water supply. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I know it's not an easy answer, but just to give folks an idea, a couple 100-gallon tank can go really quick with an engine pumping a lot of water. So, the more water, the better, basically.
Yeah, years ago, they came up with 2,500 gallons, and I don't know where they got that, but it was quite a number of years ago, and I think they had to set a minimum, and that was what the county and the fire agencies all worked with. And really, that 2,500 gallons gets us a couple of water trucks or water tenders to the fire. It gives us a little time to fight the fire until we can get some other water sources in there.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Caleb, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, I think some of you, you've heard me speak at when we used to meet in real life. And at the January Board of Supervisors retreat, OES and myself and a number of others, Cal Fire, Chief Matthias was there, and Chief McMahon was there. We made a presentation seeking board approval to move forward with community engagement around the question of a wildfire preparedness tax initiative. And as you can imagine, this COVID thing has really derailed the outreach. We had hired a political consultant and pollster to advise us and weren't able to go out into the field during this period. And so it's not completely off the table. There's still some desire depending on how things get sorted out here. But the window, of course, is getting more compressed because if we were to put a ballot initiative on the November 2020 ballot, we would have to make that decision. The board would have to make that decision in July. So I just wanted to let people know that it didn't, you haven't heard about it because we haven't been doing anything, but it's still on the burner, and we just have to figure out, at what point we can revisit it. But it's still important, and I really commend this group for convening. There have been over 42 people on the call for entire time. You are truly, leaders in this community, and we have to understand that things like this you can never predict, but we have to continue to do this good work. So, my hat's off to the Firewise Coalition. I did want to share one thing that I am working on as we all sort of pivot to different activities, and that is the CEO's office has been working with a number of community stakeholders to start a Nevada County relief fund. And many of us are on this call from the comfort of our homes, but many people in our community are really suffering. A lot of elderly are isolated. People with disabilities are having trouble getting food and medicines. There are many poor people who are struggling. Many people have lost their work, been laid off. Of course, so many of our businesses have been forced to shut down with tremendous economic impact to them, their family, life savings, and our economy. And so in the spirit of generosity during a difficult time, the Board of Supervisors today put a $100,000 challenge grant on the table to ask the community to help raise, well, we didn't set a goal, but I'd love to see us raise $1 million that we can help give to the nonprofit organizations who are doing frontline safety net work, really helping the people who are most vulnerable right now and need our help. They're completely overrun. These nonprofits are doing a work at a level that they never have before, and they're doing an amazing job. We need to support them. And we need to provide some small bridge loan, not loans, bridge grants, kind of lifeline grants to some of the very smallest businesses, of which there are many in Nevada County, who don't qualify or don't even have, the capacity to really apply for some of these other loans. So we want to help the most vulnerable. We want to keep our Main Street businesses open, and we'll be going live with a website at the end of the week. It'll be nevcorelief.org. There'll be lots of press, I hope, about it. Ubinet, I hope, will get the word out because we count on them. And that you'll not only give generously yourself, but ask your Firewise groups and others and your own personal networks to participate, so that we can really show what we can do as a community to help the most vulnerable. So be on the lookout for by the end of the week for nevcorelief.org, and be safe. Thank you. And Bob, thank you for moving forward with this meeting and giving me a chance to participate as well.
Thanks, Caleb. I want to thank everybody for their time tonight. I'm glad that 42 people that's a pretty good representation. I think our record is 70, and so it's nice to see that everybody was out tonight. I appreciate the speakers and them taking their time out of what is a very, very busy time in their lives during this COVID issue. I would urge people, an awful lot of our county residents, we're here because we're retired, and a lot of us are fortunate enough not to need the stimulus package that's coming our way. And so I would urge people to think about that, and when possible, take some of that stimulus package that we're going to be receiving shortly and consider donating it to the nonprofits that so desperately need our assistance. The last thing I wanted to ask is, just one question. If you thought tonight was of value, should we try to get back on track and have our next meeting the first Tuesday in the month of May? So that'd be about 3 weeks from now, and we would try to set it up again on Zoom. If I could just get a show of hands of people that would, I'm getting some thumbs up. Let me see.
Yes.
Okay.
I got a lot of thumbs up.
Got a lot of thumbs up. Okay, we'll take that as a it's fun seeing the thumbs pop up. Okay, so I want to thank Caleb for setting this up, and thank the county for the use of their Zoom account, and we'll prevail upon them again in May to do this again, and we'll send out an agenda and try to organize this again if that works for you, Caleb.
Of course, we're happy to do it, and really anything to support the work that all of you are doing in your neighborhoods. This is, there's probably nothing more important, so thank you.
So again, I want to thank everybody for their participation tonight. I'm glad that we're all staying home, staying safe, so please continue to stay safe. Don't forget to wash your hands, and that's it. You wash your hands, that's after you go around your house, clearing the 5 feet of space. So again, thank you everybody, and drive safely. God bless. Thanks, Caleb.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.